I want to bring it back. Basically, what kind of got this set off is I said that I don't believe that feminism is about equality. And I wanted to finish my point on that is because if I could give feminism the most generous definition, I would say that feminism is a women's advocacy movement.
Yes.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with women's advocacy. However, you can't say that it's an equality movement.
It's an equity movement.
No, it's not any of these things. Feminism.
Also, feminism isn't a monolith.
Well, okay, I'll get into that. But basically, feminism is a women's advocacy movement in its most generous sense. Nothing wrong with women's advocacy. However, you cannot deny that feminism is a man-hating ideology.
I can deny that.
Well, what is the core tenet of feminism? The patriarchy theory. Agree or disagree?
Not necessarily.
Is it a tenet of feminism? Is patriarchy
To some
theory,
people, yes. In some sects, yes.
Do you believe in the patriarchy?
Yeah.
Do you believe in the patriarchy theory?
Patriarchy theory being that it exists?
Sure. I mean, there's a
yes,
patriarchy
I believe that the patriarchy
theory.
exists, yeah.
Well, as far as theories go, theories are not fact, and I would say that.
Well, it does. We don't have to really theorize. Only 25% of this is today. Only 25% of who is in Congress, we've never had a female president, but 25% of who's Congress is female, and that's today. That's in 2023.
That's another apex fallacy. You're looking at the top tier of men. Here, you want to take a look at who occupies the top positions of society. The CEOs, the politicians.
Yes.
But here's where feminists you don't consider that men occupy the worst positions in society. And I'm not just talking about in jobs.
Ivan Jr. donated $100. Berry's past has her so screwed up. She has issues with masculinity. Her words hate men. Her narrative is painful to bear. Wish I was there. Women are emotional manipulators, and the fem movement further damaged the nuclear family. I'm a man and I have self-control.
You can tell your audience has a lot of sex.
I mean, that's an ad hominem attack. It's, basically the feminist 101. Oh.
It was actually a passive-aggressive retort, but...
Fair enough. Okay, so we were talking about patriarchy.
Yeah. You were saying it was a fallacy.
No, what was I saying, actually?
You were saying that what I was saying was a fallacy, that 25% of who is
apex fallacy,
yeah.
Yes. So you don't consider that men occupy the absolute worst positions.
I do consider that.
Right, but this
that
idea
that has nothing to do with that a patriarchy exists. So a patriarchy would be a state ruled by men. Primarily by men, which passes off power to other men, which is what we have lived in.
That's not true. Passes off power to other men.
Yes.
No,
and male interest. And because of bias, that's why on the Supreme Court we want people from different backgrounds, is because people will come in with their biases. If most of the people who are in charge of the free world are men, their biases are going to be for men's advantage. They're not going to think about women. They're not going to think about mothers. They're not going to think about females.
It's funny you mentioned that, because we recently elected a woman to the Supreme Court, mm-hmm. and you talk about the patriarchy and you talk about men. However, if I sort of have a sense of where you're getting at, if we're talking about Roe v. Wade being overturned, there are more women who are pro-life than there are men.
Yeah.
There's a lot of women who are pro-life.
I think everyone gets very caught up in the abortion debate. I think that's a whole nother.
Well,
that's a morality issue.
I don't want to really
go
too far there, but a lot of women will say, well, the overturning of Roe v. Wade and trying to stifle women's access to abortion, that is the patriarchy. That is men imposing their will. However,
do you think the patriarchy only? Do you think that so?
Well, this
because
is a comment.
Because you're a
I know
smart
where you're
guy.
Going with this. I know where you're going with this.
Patriarchy doesn't just live through men. We all feel it. Women can be misogynists. Men can be misogynists. The patriarchy can live through women.
So, women who are women, are you saying they uphold the patriarchy? Look,
yes.
Do we currently live in a patriarchy?
Yes.
Under patriarchy, are women oppressed?
Yes.
Under patriarchy, are men oppressors?
Yes.
So are you oppressed?
In some ways.
How?
I think that, we talk about the sexual revolution. I think that one form of oppression that all women face is subjugation in the form of their sexuality. I think that women are forced to perform their sexuality. I think that women are forced to...
what do you mean by perform their sexuality?
Like, I think that women become sexual objects in the eyes of the patriarchy. I think that a lot of men view themselves that way, and I think that a lot of women are comfortable viewing themselves that way, in turn objectify themselves and objectify other women. I think that in a way that men are just not.
Well, that sounds like zero accountability to me, but...
I don't think so at all. I think that I'm the first one to take accountability of what I have done for that.
Well, you're putting the blame on men for women sexualizing themselves.
Yeah, in a patriarchy, the blame would be on men.
Well, I feel like you can't really win with feminists. Either we're trying to stifle women's sexuality,
It
or
takes
we're
teamwork.
encouraging it. But
it takes teamwork. I think
okay.
first men need to see women as human and they're others, not their inferior others. I think if men stop using...
Most men don't view women in that way.
I would disagree with you. But that's
that's
a bias.
Isn't that a bit of a sexist statement to make? That you think
I think men are sexist? Yeah.
Well, I suppose in some ways. So you said you were oppressed. How were you oppressed?
I just talked about that. I talked about sexual subjugation.
But are you currently sexually subjugated?
Yes, certainly.
By your fiance?
By my fiance? No.
Well,
I think that there are individual players. When we're talking about an ideology, when we're talking about a political ecosystem that's different than individuals, right? I've already bit the bullet that I don't think every man is patriarchal, but I think that the society rages. I think that we are less so now than ever before. But I think that we are raised with patriarchal values. So men need to either unlearn that or they don't.
Unlearn what? What do
patriarchal values.
Which are what? That
men are the head of the household, that women should be submissive, that women are incubators, that women are fuck toys.
Well, I don't think men necessarily have that view. But so just on your first thing, you're talking about a traditional relationship dynamic where men are the leaders of their household. But
that's a Christian, Judeo-Christian relationship dynamic. That's not necessarily like even a naturalistic
relationship. Bro, these chicks are so bored. It's so funny, bro.
I just think everything is too...
No, they're loving this shit.
Everything's too...
One guy that literally said...
Everything's too black and white. Like, if we just... Like, it's like, so dramatic. Like, it's not that dramatic. You know what I'm saying?
No, I think it's a good conversation, though.
No, it is. But I'm saying the reason why it's like that, and, like, you guys are coming at each other, is because it's so black and white. If you live in a lot of people think in the gray. You get what I'm saying?
Sure. Okay, so... It's just interesting, though, that you bring up that point, because men are in a position where, like, a lot of even feminist liberal women will have an expectation of men to lead.
I know, and I think that that's diluted. I think that that's not feminism. I've seen videos where a woman will call herself a feminist, and then you ask her who should pay on the first date, and they say, well, him. That's not feminism. That's patriarchy.
Well, right, but
Well, that's how feminism is.
but that kind of goes back to my whole thing about equality.
Who are misnomering themselves as feminists. That is not feminism.
Well, there's
that's not equity.
That's
not
a no true Scotsman fallacy. I mean, well, that's
you
not.
are a
that's
little
not,
debater. What, did you take debate in high school?
Doesn't matter. But no true Scotsman. I mean, basically, you're saying, well, that's not actually true feminism. But
sure,
look,
that's also anecdotal.
Sure, I mean,
that's not your shadow boxing is what you're doing. I don't think that. My form of feminism doesn't think that. I believe in gender abolition. I believe in gender equality.
I'm not sure what gender abolition is.
It means none of this fucking... It means there are two sexes.
Oh, okay.
Amen.
Are you a TERF?
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to finish my point really quick on equality. Sure. So I was basically saying I don't believe it's for equality, feminism. My most generous definition of it is it's a woman's advocacy movement. I actually think it's a misandrous, man-hating movement that also happens to do.
You speak like it's a monolith, and it's not.
It pretty much is.
No, it's not.
Because
pretty much is.
Well, here's why. Okay, feminism is in every single. Feminism has seeped its claws into pretty much every single realm. The mainstream media, Hold on. The mainstream media. Relax. The mainstream media, journalism, news organizations, academia, corporations, governments. It's all feminism. Every single university of every single higher education, whatever college, university in this country has either a feminist study, a gender studies, or a women's studies program in this country. You know what they all teach? They all teach the patriarchy theory.
Sure.
It teaches that men as a class are oppressors and women as a class are oppressed. That if you teach someone, if you teach a whole swath, whole generations of people that they are oppressed and the other gender is to blame for that.
You're very anti-critical race theory is what I'm hearing also.
Well, I suppose, but I don't really get into that in this podcast. But you often hear this term system or systematics. Systemic, right? I mean, I don't know of any greater system than the higher educational system in this country. And like I said, hold on, but every single, in fact, it's a graduation requirement for a lot of people to take some sort of feminist study class, Feminism 101. And what they're taught in these classes, and the majority of people who go to college are women. It's like 60% women who go to college. Hold on, let me just finish. So
I'm gonna
throw up. So you basically have women who are going to university, being indoctrinated in this man-hating ideology, which is feminism. It is a man-hating ideology. And
I don't think that's feminism. I think women are gaslighting each other into believing that that's feminism. I think that is reactionary. I think that's reactionary feminism to years of abuse, rape, mistreatment. I think that is not true feminism. And I believe that there is a vested interest in liberals trying to feed this to future generations. I think that that's capitalistic. I think that that's capitalism at work. Also, when we talk about the sexual revolution, it does not benefit women. That's not feminism. The sexual revolution only seeks to benefit a very small number of men, right? And that would be the hypergamous men. That would be the top 1% of men.
Right.
Women are not happy that way. That's not feminism. This is a bastardized version of feminism that has been taken from women and given to leftist men who have advantages in women being hypersexualized, promiscuous, not treating their bodies like their bodies. Like that's not feminism. This is something else entirely. This is a bastardized version of this.
Well, again, no true Scotsman fallacy, but so look, and I want to finalize my whole thing as far as why I believe feminism is not about equality. Here's why. Because if feminists will not fight for a component, that's not the right word. Feminists will not fight for equality if said equality does not stand to benefit women. So
it's equity. So I know. So there are certain times when. Hold
on. Let me just finish my point really quick. So,
go ahead.
Relax, lady. Okay. If I'm trying to articulate this properly. Feminists will not fight for equality if said equality does not reap a benefit to women. So, for example, military conscription.
This is what I was just going to talk about. We're talking about equity.
I'm not really familiar with this term equity.
Equity is to each their own need, and it's taking into account that males and females are different, and so they need different things. So if we were to go with the basis that both of the sexes have equal dominion over the earth, but they are different things are going to happen. Yes, I believe that they are different. Yes, I believe that we are different.
So couldn't it be argued then, I mean, you mentioned that there's a gap in terms of people who are at the top of politics and the top of corporations.
Sure.
Couldn't you argue that because of our differences, that pushes men to want to achieve?
I believe in a naturalistic patriarchy. So I think that patriarchy is naturally what we come to when there is a stronger, bigger sex, right? That's tribalism, that's Darwinism, that's evolution, right? The stronger, biggest of the group is going to want dominion over the smaller group. But what I think that served a purpose in Neolithic times. I don't think now in the post-technological age, almost in the post-human age, that the patriarchy needs to be so well defined. Right? It made sense in the 50s or even before then. Even when we're talking about the 1800s, it made sense before you could do anything on the computer, make your money on the computer doing podcasts. Right now, you wouldn't hold up. You're not fucking muscular, 6'8", fucking hunting things with spears. That's what a man is, right? So these gender roles,
I disagree with that.
this patriarchy is
but-
unneeded. And women are actually, evolutionarily, also very well suited to powerful positions. We're very agreeable. We are very good at compromise. We're very good communicators. Whereas men are unfortunately losing some value because a lot of it is brute force, right? Post-technologically.
I kind of reject a couple of your statements there.
Which ones?
Well, I mean, you say that men, it's like brute force, we're only attuned to physical labor.
Well, we know that women are on average have higher IQs than men. We know that we're more agreeable.
No,
we know that
that's-
we have better communication
not
skills.
true.
We're more emotionally adept. That is true.
No, women don't have higher IQs than men. I think it's actually
do.
equal.
No. So the distribution for men have high. The distribution is
No.
more
Are you
is more
talking-
oscillative.
Are you talking about greater male variability?
So there is
Are
greater
you talking
male
about that?
variability.
So-
but women are
no,
on
but
average
the
on
average-
average higher IQ than men.
No, the average is equal.
No.
Here's the difference, though. There's more. Here's the difference.
There's more variability with men.
Yeah, no. Here's the difference.
that.
Here's the difference with IQ. It's called the greater male variability. So you have a higher proportion of hyper intelligent, like very high IQ men, but you also have really, really dumb men. You have a much higher proportion of really dumb men.
Yes.
So, but the average is the same.
No, the
Yes.
average. No, the female
average is the
average
same.
is higher.
The average is the same.
The average. That's not true. I don't know how to argue. I don't know how to argue this. It's not what you're saying is not true.
There are more women. I would say that
There are more women with higher IQs than men, but there is greater variability in men.
I'm talking about the average here. So at the middle, I think you're right that there are more women in the middle that have higher IQs. However, if we're talking about genius level IQs,
Yes, but
there are
that's not-
more men who are.
Yes, but who cares about those men?
Those are the men that are going to be really shifting things, I think. You don't think that we should cultivate genius?
Hey, Brian,
What's up?
respectfully, is this a panel with you guys or with everybody?
Well, I mean, you guys are welcome to jump in if you want.
Yeah,
I mean,
we've had about 8 comments asking to move on, so, just respectfully.
We'll talk about it later.
So, okay, I will move on. We need to do a couple super chats. Maybe if you're down to come back sometime, we can continue the debate. I want to wrap really quick on the whole equality thing. So again, my whole thing is, look, with feminism, if equality cannot be reaped, feminists will not fight for it. So equality that, for example, perhaps comes at the detriment of women, even if it's equality, and honestly, even if it's equity, or even if it's equality, feminists won't fight for it.
There are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. Okay? So I understand what you're saying, right? When we talk about like the military thing, when we talk about like a draft, women would not be involved in a draft, right? What
They
am I
ought
going
to
do?
be, though.
No, they ought to not be.
Pull the microphone closer towards you and tilt it up.
No,
Yes,
they
women
ought to
should
not be.
So you're telling me that we live in a patriarchy where women are oppressed. However, men have been, throughout all of human history, have been put through the meat grinder of war and have been the cannon fodder.
There are trade-offs. There are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. I understand that the patriarchy would also oppress men. And also, it is just a material reality that it kind of sucks to be a man. If you're upholding the patriarchy, it also sucks that you guys get the brunt of the stick. But with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Do you think an average man is upholding a supposed patriarchy?
No.
Okay. So,
I think some patriarchal values, certainly, but not the patriarchy.
but you think that women should not be subject to military conscription?
I thought we were moving on.
No.
Hold on. Well, that's not equity or equality.
Women are subjected to being the people who literally bring in the next offspring generationally. I think that we're doing okay with our jobs. Our biological imperatives are pretty much taken care of.
But there's not government compelled pregnancy.
Maybe there should be.
I doubt you would be in favor of that.
Yeah, I'm
but,
not.
But look, here's
I don't think there should be war.
We're talking about patriarchy. We're talking about women are oppressed, men are the oppressors. Look, it's my position that if you want to play this oppression game, I'm perfectly prepared
Men are
to play.
oppressed by
Hold on.
patriarchy also.
Right, but this idea that men have it easy and that men are the oppressors and women are the oppressed.
I don't think men have it easy.
But I'm prepared to say that men are more oppressed than women.
In certain ways, I would agree.
No,
I would
broadly
say that
speaking, men are more oppressed than women. The worst outcomes in life occur more to men than they do to women.
The worst outcomes, meaning
The worst outcomes.
like poverty, suicide.
Homelessness, yes, that. Being conscripted to go to war is quite...
The patriarchy affects both of us in different ways. I don't think it's a competition.
Not a patriarchy. There is no patriarchy.
The world's evils affect us in different ways. I don't think it's a competition of whether or not you're more oppressed or I'm more oppressed.
Well, feminists
if you want to
made
be a
it
men's rights
competition.
activist, go ahead, be a men's rights activist. I will support you.
What do you mean,
in
go
everything.
ahead? I already am.
Okay, slay. I will support you. I will say I'm against, certain forms of circumcision. I want to find out.
That's actually a great example. Circumcision. Immediately upon birth, this is something that only impacts men. As a baby, men are circumcised.
Well, that's not something that only affects, it's in the West, certainly, but female circumcision is pervasive in other countries.
I mean, yes, there is female circumcision, but...
Okay, sorry.
Move
Okay,
the
sorry,
fuck on.
sorry.
No, but it's like, look, as soon as men are birthed in this country, they are mutilated upon birth.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we can... I'll just leave it at this.
You can be a men's rights activist.
Men are more oppressed than women. Change my mind. You can't do it.
Okay,
men are
Stephen Crowder.
more oppressed than women.